Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Virtual Travel Escapes. I'm Rhonda Suyen, the at Paul Travel, leisure manager at Paul Travel. And joining me this afternoon, as always, the beautiful co-host, Julie Beckdash. Hi,
Awesome.
Julie.
Thanks, Rhonda. Hi, and hi, everyone.
Thank you, everybody, for taking the time this afternoon to join us on our little webinar series, where we've been featuring different destinations and experiences from around the world, really in hopes to kind of keep our travel dreams alive. I know we all have that thirst for travel these days, and it's growing and growing, and we're eager to get back out there. So we really hope that you'll find a little inspiration and maybe a new destination that you want to go to. Now, all of our webinars are being recorded. So if you maybe have missed some of our past webinars, you will find them listed on our Paul Travel website. So that's paultravel.com/webinars. They're all listed there. So hope you go and take a peek and enjoy. For next week, we're just in the midst of getting everything finalized. So keep a watch for your emails. And even on our website, we'll have that listed and give you the ability to register for that. Now, today we have Oceania joining us and a beautiful and wonderful speaker, and Julie's going to introduce you to her shortly. If you have any questions today, please put them in the Q&A box. Julie's going to monitor them throughout the presentation, and we will ensure all of your questions get answered at the end. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. And Julie, I'll let you welcome our wonderful guest.
Thank you so much, Rhonda. So today we have with us Cathy Denroche. You must have a good filter on Cathy because she's had over 40 years in the cruise industry as director of sales. And so she's seen many changes. She herself has also changed to keep up with the growing industry as it's transformed over the years. Cathy is full of passion and respect for the cruise travel. She brings her insight in showing you the world with Oceania Cruises, which is just waiting to open its doors to you with some of the most desirable itineraries yet to come. Small ship luxury awaits you with Cathy Denroche and Oceania Cruises. So I'll hand it over to you, Cathy. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be with all of you. And I'm just going to share my screen here. So give me 1 second. You can see it, Julie? Are you starting to see my screen? Perfect. Yep. Okay, let me just start it here. Well, everybody, do you know, I have to say it's been really exciting. When I look at the industry over the last 45 years, I started out with a love boat 1 million years ago in Vancouver. And I have to say, this is where I live. This is my home. But I have to say, over the last 12 years, I've been with Oceania Cruises, and literally before that, 18 years with a company called Crystal Cruises. So I've been around the block a few times, and I've traveled a lot. And I love ships. I love barge trips. I love river cruises. I love all sorts of travel. So it's not only about cruising that we're going to see a huge surge in travel coming into 22 and 23, but it's one of the segments I want to tell you about is cruising. And this is one of the greatest parts of our industry. Do you know the travel business is the second largest industry in the world? In fact, the world could not survive without travelers. And so last March, we were all brought to our knees. We couldn't travel in Canada. No one in the world could travel. And this year it's been kind of similar, where we're starting to see pockets of it. But what we've seen is this incredible surge. The pendulum stopped, and now it's swinging back for bookings into 22 and 2023. So right now, while I talk to you, yes, we cannot travel at this very moment, but what we're talking about are sailings that are coming up 4 and 6 and 8 months away. And we're super excited because at Oceania Cruises, out of our 6 ships that we have, almost 7, I'm going to tell you about the new Vista, is that our Marina, one of our ships, is going to drop in the water in Europe on August 29th. So it's the very first return to service vessel we'll have, and we're so excited. But I wanted to tell you a little bit about travel, because what we're seeing is this, as I mentioned, this huge trend of people coming to book travel. But the fact is that what we're seeing is a trend that is bringing, groups of people into smaller ships and for longer voyage. And this is one of the things I really want to tell you about Oceania, because I've been here for 12 years and I love this line. And I love it because in 2003, I was over at Crystal. I was watching Oceania when they came out, and their secret was that they wedged their way in between these beautiful premium base ships like Holland America, Princess, Royal Caribbean, and wedged themselves between them and the 6-star luxury line. So we started this new niche called upper premium cruising. And what it meant is we included on a more consistent basis things that were really important to travelers, things that we didn't want to nickel and dime them with. But we weren't all inclusive like our 6-star partners, because we'd had guests, let's face it, who said, some of them said, well, I don't drink, or I don't need shore excursions. I want the things that are inclusive by choice. And that's where Oceania started this start of the 6-star market, the small ship luxury. See, when I look at Oceania now, I think, oh my goodness, we have built ourselves on 3 pillars. I was always used to selling small ships. At Crystal, it was the same thing. And, one of the things that Julie and Rhonda are going to be able to tell you about is that when it comes to small ships, it's not about stuffy and formal and more expensive. What it means is it's just more personal attention to detail, more space per guest, fewer people on board the ship. And this is why during this whole pandemic, we've seen a huge wave of new people coming to Oceania who have been on bigger ships before, or even the luxury lines. But the first reason that you as a guest would ever come to visit us or come to sail on us, is that we are known for our destinations. We are the most immersive, I think, coveted travel destination cruise line ever in history. And I think the fact is we do 70 cruises up to 180 days around the world, but we do them on small ships. So these exquisite itineraries that are very port intensive are done with small ships. And that means they get into ports and these beautiful boutique and marquee kind of ports that the big ships just can't get into. So it's small, it's intimate, it's attention to detail, going around the world in so many ways, which I'm going to tell you some of our beautiful itineraries. And we were known for our different twists on itineraries, which I love. So instead of doing maybe a Panama Canal from San Francisco to Miami, you can come from Lima up to Miami. Or maybe, our sailings that go from Los Angeles and kind of come up through San Francisco and go to Alaska at times will take you right across over through Russia and down into Asia. So there's a lot of different itineraries, and with small ship come one-off itineraries, sailings that we do only once a year and one sailing only. So when I talk about small ships, one of the things I want to tell you about is if you see an itinerary that you like, and this goes not just for Oceania, but any small kind of resort or anything, what you always want to make sure is that you book it when you see it, because we don't have 5,000 beds. We have 600 guests on our ship, 1,200 guests on our Marina and Riviera ships, and the new Vista is going to be just over 1,000 guests. So we're considered really small. But we built ourselves in these 3 pillars: small ships, beautiful itineraries, and we were the cruise line for foodies. Above all luxury and above all premium end, this is the one thing. We set out to be really different. We said we're going to be the first cruise line that is going to get rid of 2 seatings. We're going to be casual. There's no jackets and ties, no long gowns, no formal wear for anybody. And it was a beautifully dressed casual crowd. We said we were going to not have any kids programs, but we were going to invite kids to be as part of a guest count, these, kind of guests within our home. So that was kind of cool. We said we're not going to have art auctions, but instead we're going to put $5 to $7 million worth of original arts on each of our ship. And you can take an AudioVox tour and look at all the beautiful individual and, Picasso's original and Murray sculptures. And each part of the ship is so beautifully appointed that it made you feel like you're in this gorgeous tiny hotel, but at the same time having all the beautiful attributes that every kind of luxury resort offers. So when I look at Oceania and I look at the things that we include, things that are really important to travelers, that's one of our key kind of goals, is I look against the big ships. And I love all the big ships. I love every kind of cruise line in this industry, whether it's river, whether it's barge, whether it's ships. we're all different from each other. And that's what is so cool about being a consumer in these days, is that we have a lot of choice. And this is what Paul Travel and I've grown up with this team of amazing women who can really guide you to the perfect vacation that you need. They can pair you to the perfect kind of cruise that you might need. And sometimes we want big and sometimes we want small. And it's all depending on just what choice you make. But with Oceania, one of the things I loved in my mid 60s was it was small and intimate. There were no lineups, no crowds. It was casual. It was open seating. We weren't nickel and diming anybody. It was more inclusive than anything I'd been on. But the fact is, it was small, and we went into these gorgeous ports. So when you look against the big ships, you see that it is a very small experience. And at Oceania, we have 4 small ships of 30,000 tons. Do you know, 2 years ago, I was in Victoria, and as the director of sales, I have, I get to see the ships all over the world. But I was showing off the beautiful little Regatta, which 684 guests on it. And right docked beside me at Ogden Point in Victoria was one of the Royal Caribbean ships and one of the beautiful Big Princess ships. And I love both of those companies. But I was looking, thinking, gee, isn't it incredible that 3 of these little ships that I'm on right now could fit onto each one of the ships on either side of me. And it made me feel that it was just a really perfect choice for me. And you can imagine going into St. Petersburg in Russia, and we dock right in front of the Hermitage. We don't dock where all the other ships dock because we're considered small. When we come into Monte Carlo, it's like we're as a yacht coming in their harbor. And so there's a lot of benefits to being a small cruise. And a lot of cities, as you've read in the news, are starting to say we can't take big ships. So we want to keep small. That's our goal. Is we're never going to change that side of it. We're always going to have intimacy. So 684 guests on these beautiful little ships. And they were all built in France, and so they were beautiful. They were almost, Louis XV furniture and things like that. The last couple of years, we wanted to re-inspire them. We wanted to bring them up to the standard of Marina and Riviera. And while they were already beautiful, we basically took the ships down to the studs and we re-inspired them all. So when you walk around these small, beautiful little ships, museums, they are so elegant and so casual and so relaxed feeling that it just gives you a sense of you're in the perfect home away from home. Well, I came over from Crystal to join Oceania because Oceania was building the Marina and Riviera. These were twice the size of our small ships, 2 ships that were 60,000 tons, what I was familiar selling at the time, and 1,250 guests. All it meant was we had 2 more restaurants, more space per guest. And so we had 1,200 guests, and it's considered small, but it was all designed by Ralph Lauren. So when I look at our ships, our entire fleet, what I look at is not just the friendliness of our staff and the service, but the accommodations themselves. We've thought of every single thing from 1,000 count thread sheets to building our own beds called Prestige Tranquility beds. You can actually buy them. Our guests come into our staterooms and they go, I never want to leave that bed. It's so beautiful. Beautiful little laptop kind of blankets that if you just want to sit on the chaise and throw a blanket over, you've got that. Binoculars, umbrellas, fully refrigeration, refrigerator stocked full of, complimentary soft drinks and bottled water and stuff. We don't charge for any of that, and so it was important to travelers. We weren't going to charge them for our beautiful bottle of water. And by the way, we were the first cruise line to get rid of 3 million plastic bottles of water a year. We started a system called a Vero system, which Europe in the luxury hotels has used for many years. And so we've, kind of grabbed onto that. And now we have bottles of water, like bottled water that we do. And it's absolutely fantastic. So we had Bulgari toiletries, everything you could think of. It was beautifully appointed in each stateroom. And that's what I love about it. And when I look at Oceania now and I think, gee, not only are the ships so beautiful and your staterooms are so beautifully appointed, but it's the service levels on board the ship. There's never a crowd. When you come back from a shore excursion, after 12 hours, almost half of the staff are standing outside clapping you in, and it's just the most wonderful feeling. And one of the things I love about Oceania is that, as we start to build new ships, and the Vista is the first of 3 new ships coming out for us over the next few years, is that in April 23, this beautiful ship will start to set sail, and this September coming up is when we will open up the books. So Paul Travel will be all incredibly ready to take your requests there. So I've told you a tiny little bit about Oceania, but what I want to talk to you about is our 3rd pillar, and this is the cruise line for foodie side of it, because I think when it comes to Oceania, it truly is exquisite cuisine, and it's all because of this gentleman here, Jacques Pepin. You've heard of him before. He worked with Julia Child back in the day. He was Charles de Gaulle's head chef. I've known this man for many, many years. He's absolutely wonderful, and he oversees the entire side of Oceania's cuisine. Jacques has always believed in freshest of food, lots of choice. So it wasn't just about frog's legs and lobster, which you can have every day in any of the restaurants. But the fact is, it was about the choice you had as a consumer. And it was also about our a la minute cooking, which means that we don't do a full preparation. When you order something, whether it's a piece of fresh halibut or a beautiful piece of lobster or steak, that it's cooked for you at the moment you order it. So that's what makes us so keen about food. And number two, it makes us so famous about our food on board the ship. And not only that, we've always had different options for you, whether you're a vegetarian or whether you're, a guest who just kind of wants to have big steaks every night or whatever it is. We've got 4 restaurants on our little ships and 6 on the Marina and Riviera, and the new Vista will have 8 dining rooms, and we do not charge for dining in any of our staterooms. It's one of the things that's important to travelers that we include. So it's the freshest of cuisine. We can take you on market tours with our chefs to see some of the beautiful places that we get our regional fish and some of our regional cuisine from. So it's incredibly full of flavor, full of choice, and everything you need is right there. Well, a couple of years ago, we decided that we also wanted to introduce more plant-based cuisine. So we've always had vegetarian options. That doesn't necessarily mean just plant-based. One of our head chefs became a vegan 2 years ago. And so on every single one of our ships, we offer 250 different plant kind of based options for you. So you'll see people walking around with their green smoothies in the morning or their quinoa parfaits in the morning. And by evening, they're going into Toscana, our Italian restaurant, or Polo Grill is our chop house, or up to the Terrace Cafe for a fresh piece of grilled lobster. And I think that's kind of the cool side of it. So you've got so much choice when it comes to Oceania. And as I mentioned to you, we don't have 2 seatings. We have open seatings between 6 and 10 o'clock. Some of our restaurants require reservations, but we don't charge you to dine in there. We felt that it was something that should be included from the start. So when people come onto our ship and they're just blown away by being able to walk into any of the dining rooms, say, I'd like a table for 2, I'd like a table for 8. If you're a single guest and you feel like being with people, then we'll match you, because that's our maitre d'. That's the service we provide on board Oceania. Well, we loved food so much, we built a culinary center. We were the very first cruise line to build a culinary center on any ship. So the Marina and the Riviera, our 2 larger ships, have the culinary center, as will the Vista. And this is kind of cool because it's room for 24 students. And so we come in and we learn over a 2 or 3 hour period of some of the greatest skills as a chef you can have, and some of the different themes we have on board. And it's an incredibly popular place on board our ships. On the smaller ships, we offer open cooking classes to everybody because we don't have the culinary centers. And with new safety protocols, and I am going to talk about those near the end, that we might not be able to have 24. We might only be able to have 14 or 15 people in it, but we're prepared for every scenario. So you kind of get to see a side of Oceania that's small and intimate and wonderful. But now I want to tell you about some of the places we go in the world, our curated travel experiences, because at Oceania, as I said, we're seeing trends to come to smaller ships. And because guests couldn't travel in 2020 or 2021 so far, they've all started to say, oh, wow, I'm going to take those 2 years of holidays that I had, and I'm going to put it into a longer cruise. I'm going to go for 18 days or 30 days or 60 days. We announced the Around the World cruise in January this year for 2023. And I have to say that in 24 hours, the whole 180-day cruise was sold out with 684 guests. So this huge kind of push to travel and go further places, because the world is open. The world can't operate without travelers. And it's the most resilient of all the industries out there, is the travel business. And you see that by just account of looking at Paul Travel and Rhonda and Julie, who I've known for so long, and Leslie. The whole team of women there are so amazing. They really know their stuff. And they're always the people who are at the educational classes, who are attending events that they can learn more about each product. And they're seeing the similar trends. Well, we're all explorers at heart, but one of the things about Oceania, as I mentioned, is we have this incredible array of itineraries. So we have certain sailings that are one itinerary once a year. So when I say we circumnavigate Australia, that's one time a year. We come right around Africa on the World Cruise. We also do Africa on other segments. We come right around South America. We go into Europe from Svalbard, that little gray blob at the top of your screen, all the way down into the deepest part of the Med for 7 months of the year on 5 of the 6 of our ships. So we have Alaska, Bermuda, Greenland, Iceland, Canada, New England, all sorts of things. We cover the world, and I want to take you quickly around the world to show you. And that's when I talk about some of how our itineraries work, because I always used to say, why go home? Every sailing I've ever been in Oceania, there's always at least a dozen people who come to us and say, can I stay on for the next sailing, which may be 18 or 30 days, depending on what it is. So, you know, if you're looking at something, ask the girls, because they might say, well, gee, I can put you on a back-to-back, or maybe I just want part of this sailing. Oceania's got so many cruises, and we operate on 7-day cruises all the way up to 180 days. But truly, our average cruise is 14 days. You can't really experience Oceania in less than that. Antarctica. So we've always done around South America and the Horn. This is the first year we're going into the Antarctic on the Marina. This is our bigger ship. So we start either in Rio de Janeiro or Buenos Aires, and we come all the way down the coast to the Falkland Islands and down into the Antarctic and all the way around up to Valparaiso or Santiago de Chile, and in some cases right up to Lima, Peru. And this is my son, Ethan. And the only reason I'm showing you his photographs here is because he's an expedition guide for one of the greatest companies down there. And I was telling him that this is going to be a sail by. We're not going to be able to land in the Antarctic. He said, oh my goodness, you're going to have the best time. Even for 5 days as we cruise around, we're going to have veteran Antarcticans from all sorts of, you know, areas of science, environment, history, all that kind of stuff. Because on a small ship, it's not about big entertainment. It's about the best enrichment. And that's what Oceania's secret is. So we have good entertainment, but our real strength comes in enriching our guests' experience as they travel around the world. So as we go into different peninsulas and little bays here and there, the wildlife will be amazing. And as I said, you'll be fully enriched going through the Antarctic and coming all the way up into the Chilean fjords and Torres del Paine National Park and things like that. So the Antarctic is one of our sailings, and that's 20 days. Buenos Aires up to Lima is another cruise. Now, we don't go to the Antarctic on this one, but you might look at it and go, well, maybe I don't need the Antarctic. Maybe I want to come all the way up to Lima and be able to see Machu Picchu. And these always happen around January, February, and March of every year. So I love it. And this is a twist. I was telling you at the very beginning about a Panama Canal cruise that I love. It's a big, big seller out of Western Canada. But because at Oceania, not only are we this great little product, everybody, but things that we do are quite different from anybody. We always include your air, your taxes, and your cruise. Out of Calgary and Edmonton, it's a $250 Canadian dollar add-on to go when we fly you all the way down to Lima on the most nonstop direct route. And then I always suggest you stay in Lima because you want to be able to see, you know, Machu Picchu or the Nazca lines, or maybe go to the Galapagos or whatever it is. But as we start our cruise, we come all the way up the coast of Ecuador into the Panama Canal. We stop in Panama City, which is an unusual stop for most cruise lines. We stay there for a day and then travel all the way up through the Caribbean into our own private island and up into Miami. This is 18 days, and it's a beautiful, beautiful canal. So we offer these pre and post packages. Cruising is no longer just about being on a ship and having fine food. It's all the things that happen around that holiday. So we have 6 days in the Galapagos or 4 days in Machu Picchu at the beginning. And these are the things that the girls at Paul Travel can help you with. So again, you look at these gorgeous areas that we can take you to, and whether it's on the other side of the country, like Christ the Redeemer here over Copacabana Beach, and we start some of our cruises in South America through this, and especially our Amazon cruises. These are things that everyone can try and help you with if you want to get into Iguazu Falls or you want to do something different. We always work with the marina in South America because it's a perfect size ship. So we do 3 weeks in the Amazon with almost a week fully in the Amazon itself. And again, these are 21-day sailings. Or as a twist on the Caribbean with a bit of South America, you'll never see another cruise line with 20 days in the Caribbean. But I call this kind of a close to home sailing. And I love this. It's one on our small ship, the Sirena, and it is 20 days out of Miami. So again, we would fly you from Alberta or wherever your destination, where you live, right down to Miami, and then you would sail around the Caribbean, but you hit Panama City for a day. What I love about this itinerary, goes in and out of the Panama Canal and then back up through the gorgeous ports. So I think you're going to really love these kinds of things. When I look at Caribbean sailings, and I just wanted to tell you about this because Caribbean's quite a big seller for all of the Canadians, but yet it's not the biggest seller. We get more exotic bookings out of this area of Western Canada. But the interesting side of it is that these are 14 days, and they're cool because they start anytime in November and go right through to February, and there's few of them, but they're really port intensive. And the reason I put this slide up is to just show you how port intensive we are, how many we come in early, we leave late on these itineraries, and it's a stunning itinerary. So this is things that you can book as well. And we switch over to our little ships. This is the Nautica. This is one of the 4 small ships. Absolutely one of my favorite ships I've ever seen in all the industry. And I have to say, it's intimate. They have fireplaces on the ship. They don't work, but you can sit in the library and put your feet up on an ottoman and read books or watch videos or whatever you want to do, listen to TED Talks, all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, you're sitting in front of a fireplace and it makes you feel like you're in someone's home. You can go up for afternoon tea in Horizons, or you can go and sit in a bar and have a nice drink, or there's lots of little places that you can just sneak away into, listening to lectures, all that kind of stuff. We don't have any big announcements on the ship, but every day we believe in music. So we have one of our beautiful quartets who plays classical music to jazz to everything at lunch and at dinner live for you. We have discos on the ship, all that kind of stuff. This is our Terrace Cafe on the small ship. What I love about this picture is many times when you think about sailing and stopping in a port, you might just want to go up at dinner in your jeans and t-shirts and, have the Terrace Cafe. This is where we have a beautiful fresh grill, everything you can imagine. It's just absolutely beautiful, anything you want. And we've always had a non-touch service. So it means that you've never been able to handle a spoon on a ship of Oceania's. We serve you what you want. You point to what you want, we'll make it for you, we'll make it right there for you. And then we bring it out and put it at your table. So you might want to just come and watch the world go by. So you can imagine being in Dubrovnik or Kotor, Montenegro, and just sitting here and having this beautiful sunset. But we use our small ships in some of the most exotic places. And so, when Rhonda and I first talked about doing this talk, I said, I really love to talk about some of the exotics in the tropics that we have because they're unusual itineraries. So I want to show you a couple of them because Tahiti, you think of small ships, and we use our small ship there, and it's one of our highest rated cruises. So we start in Moorea, and we start in Papeete, and we go to Rangiroa, and we go all through the French Polynesian Islands, whether it's 10 days, 12 days, 14 days, including the Marquesas. I'm just showing you snippets of some of our highlighted itineraries. But you can actually even take this cruise and go from Los Angeles to Honolulu, all the way down through Papeete. And this is 2.5 million square kilometers of France sitting under Honolulu. So it's probably what Hawaii was like 10,000 years ago. It's one of the most expensive places on earth. If you want a cup of coffee, it's about $20, but it's absolutely amazing. And you can cruise around in this glorious paradise for 10, 14 days, or you can continue on to Auckland, or you can start a cruise in Auckland, the home of all the wines, the home of some of the best fjords in the world. And so this is one of our cruises that is called Why Go Home? Go back to back to back. So this is a sailing that we have from Auckland to Sydney. So that's a 14-day cruise. And then it's paired with another 18-day cruise around the whole west coast of Australia, going into Broome, tiny little town that's the pearl capital of the world, Perth, which is so much like Vancouver. It's beautiful. So coming in through all these gorgeous places up into Indonesia, into the Philippines, again, a little bit unusual, and then all the way up into Tokyo. So 43 days. And so every year we have some of these great cruises, and we start and end our cruises in Sydney. Now, we don't know what'll happen with Australia because they've closed their borders till June of 2022, but we're going to go. And we're going to aim to keep our published sailings, and we're going to drop our marina into the waters on August 29th in Europe, and we have just cleared everything there. So we're going with a published sailing there. So we will continue to monitor each situation as we go along. But this is one of our one-off sailings. This is 35 days round trip out of Sydney. Imagine going around Australia in 35 days and having some of the greatest tours, or coming from Tokyo to Singapore. You always think of river cruises when you think that, of Vietnam and Cambodia. But actually, I've done this cruise on our small ship. This is again on one of our small ships. We want to keep intimate. We want to be able to come into places like, Saigon and into Taipei, and go in through Halong Bay in Vietnam. And we really consider ourselves destination immersion specialists. So as an example here, when we come in to Halong Bay, we spend 2 days here. And so we're amongst 1,800 limestone islands, haunting and beautiful, and we sit out anchored in the harbor here. But some of our guests say, well, I want to go off and see caves, or I want to even go overnight. And they go off into, a little junk and head down through some of these little villages, and at midnight you're fishing with some of the fishermen. It's very cool. Or you might say, well, I want to go up to Angkor Wat, I want to see Siem Reap, I want to go into Angkor Wat, where we take you in groups of 10, and it's overnight for 2 days. So it's kind of cool. So again, LA, kind of a new experience for us. Here's Victoria in our picture here, but we come up from Los Angeles through up to Alaska, over to Russia, and down into Japan for almost a full week. It's absolutely a beautiful sailing. So let's switch sides of the world for 2 seconds, because I want to zap you quickly on this side of the world. And so when I look at this, and I think some of the beautiful itineraries we have, and we spend, as I said, almost 7 months in Europe. We're the longest lasting cruise line to spend any time in Europe. But this is a one-off sailing. This is an 18-day, the sun doesn't go down. This is from Oslo to London, up through the North Cape into Archangel and Murmansk. This is in the 16th century when explorers started to try and find where the North Pole was. So there's a lot of history, and all the while you're kind of coming down through the Norwegian fjords. And this is the reason you want to go to the North Cape and the Norwegian fjords, because they're one of 4 to 5 different destinations that I think are so beautiful and very, very worthwhile to have a look at. And I think if you're a sun lover, then you're not going to see any, on that time of year, you're not going to see the sun go down. And that's why we go in August. This is a sailing that we've kind of matched on a back-to-back. So it gives you an idea of the longer voyage you can take if you want to do that. But this starts in Reykjavik to London. So again, we would fly you from Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, wherever you're based, over to Reykjavik and into London. So you come into Iceland, its own planet almost. It's so different. And then over to Greenland, some of the deepest fjords in the world. So they're huge, deep fjords with 6,000-foot mountains coming out of them, and muskox kind of hanging off on the cliffs. And it's pretty amazing. And then down through Norway and all the way over to London. And here it is. Here's Iceland. And this is something I would always come in a couple of days before if I could. When it comes to coming into Paris, we do the Baltic. We do Reykjavik. This is kind of a long voyage that comes in from Reykjavik and does the Baltic. But most of our cruises do Copenhagen to, St. Petersburg and onwards. So we're real experts in this area. We spend a lot of time in July and August in this area, and September go through the Baltic. This is a 9-day sailing that we have, that we fly you into Stockholm, home from Oslo, but we come in through Gdansk in Poland. We spend 3 days. This particular itinerary, have 2 days in St. Petersburg. Most of the time, we dock right in front of the Hermitage, and we're there for 3 days, depending on your cruise. And I actually think if you get a chance to see the Kiel Canal ever on one of the Baltics, that's the cruise you want to do. And we do one of those a year as well. So you come into places like the Hermitage, and here we dock right here in the front. Christ the Savior, all our just beautiful places. And of course, Russia, you have to have a visa to go into. But again, in 2022, We will have fully vaccinated guests with fully vaccinated staff. And I would imagine that we will not have to be on shore excursions. In fact, when we start our sailing in August, we've already cleared it with the cities and the ports we're going into, that as long as you're fully vaccinated, you do not have to go on a fully escorted shore excursion anywhere. Now in Russia, you kind of have to do that because you have to have a visa, but this is Peterhof Palace and some of the gold and some of the history that you see. So this sailing is so beautiful because this is Tallinn, Estonia. This is a fairy tale city. This is a place I probably would never do a shore excursion. I would just walk the streets and do a little shop and have lunch somewhere, and it's absolutely amazing. Excuse me. And then into Helsinki, gorgeous World War II history. Not that it can be gorgeous, but the city's gorgeous, and a lot of historian kind of walking tours and things there that we offer you. And I'm going to tell you about that. Mediterranean, full-blown, port intensive, 12-day, June 2022 from Barcelona all the way to Venice. Come in early, leave late, stay overnight in beautiful places like Bordeaux, or go into a private home of 112-acre, someone's home that you come in and you hunt for black truffles and then you stay for lunch, and it is absolutely amazing. Or Firenze or Dubrovnik. And let's say you're a fitness person and you kind of want a wellness tour. Well, Oceania, and I'm going to tell you about our shore excursions, over 3,000 different kinds of tours you can take, and they're built for 10, 12, 14, 16 guests, up to 35 guests. And with new health regulations, we've got a scenario for every kind of situation that comes upon us. So here we are in a wellness tour by Aquamar. That's our spa on board the ship. And that means that you come over to Lokrum Island, just outside of Dubrovnik, and you're doing Pilates and yoga in the ancient groves, and then you stop for lunch, and it's fantastic. Moving a little bit to the Middle East. Middle East is huge right now, although right now, who knows what's going to happen? We're all watching the news. But, you know, I love the fact that we're flying into Jerusalem and home from Venice. And if you're interested, you can do a 38-day sailing that comes from India into the Middle East, all the way up through Egypt and into the Valley of the Kings and over to Jerusalem and all the way up into Istanbul. This is a beautiful, beautiful sailing. So again, we're looking at a year away from now. Things will have settled down, hopefully, and we'll start to see, and sometimes we have to change itineraries. We don't know always, but we do things that are really different, from vintage evenings and dinners in deserts and things like that. So with Oceania, you're going to see different things like, I can't remember the gentleman's name. I'm going to think about it. Andrea Pagelli. He has his own vineyard in Italy. And so we've got a tour that's going to just have lunch at his vineyard. So amazing kinds of things that you're going to be able to see on Oceania. And this is my biggest seller, Dubai all the way to Cape Town, 30 days or round trip out of Cape Town. And again, going up into the sand dunes of Walvis Bay in Namibia, doing lots of safaris. So we have lots of things that you can do. Everyone at Paul Travel can help you. And finally, you know, as we zip around the world here, this is our 2023 Around the World cruise. It's 180 days. And while it's on wait list right now, 2023 is almost 2 years away. So there are going to be people who change their mind. So if you're interested in a world cruise, talk to the girls. They will absolutely wait list for you. And this is a gorgeous sailing that moves east and comes around back through Alaska and down through Victoria and Vancouver and into San Francisco and over to New York. So that kind of gives you just the snippets of the world. But the last 5 minutes here, what I really want to tell you about are some of the things that we're doing at Oceania, because we realize there's a different guests on board for different reasons. So some are interested in culinary cooking tours. Some are interested in on little go local tours. Those are bicycle rides in Amsterdam, or walking historian tours, or a little, shopping excursion. Some are wellness tours. Some are the Pilates that you saw on Lokrum Island. Evening excursions, going to see a concert in Venice, and Vivaldi's church and things like that. So there's all sorts of different things. We've got a short excursion for every scenario that hits us. And that brings me to the health and safety protocol. What I tell you today could change tomorrow. It could change. It'll definitely change within the next month. It'll definitely change within the next 6 months before we even start to put a ship in the water. But what I can tell you is that 30 million people sailed in 2019 globally on ships, and 30 million people started to sail from January to March globally on ships. Out of those 30 million people, unfortunately, 65 people passed away from COVID. Now that's a record safety of 0.00008%. So it's record safety. Ships have always been safe. We're easy targets for the news because we've got a certain amount of people in a certain amount of space in a certain amount of time. But over the years, cruising is the safest of all. And it now, what we did in last March when we couldn't sail anymore, we hired 12 scientists and environmentalists who said, what can we do to make ships even more safe? Now, I told you about we have non-touch service on Oceania, all the little things, always sanitizers. We make everybody sanitize their hands always. But the fact is that we said, what can we do even better to make it better than before? So we've implemented 74 new recommendations across 5 focus areas. First of all, we've changed all of our air filtration. So we now have the cleanest air in the world on these ships. Then, of course, ventilation, sanitation. We've got controlled capacity. We've got extra space in hospitals. We've got more people, medical experts on board the ships with us. There will be testing. There'll be shore excursion planning. We have set it all aside and we will not do anything until we have all of those things in place. And that's why we're waiting till August to dip one of our ships into the water and see how it goes. And I can tell you, it's going to be better than it's ever been. But just like 9/11, when we started, and you've heard this many times before, but we had no security at the airports. We could go up into the bridge of a ship and sail with the captain into Istanbul and see the beautiful Bosphorus Sea. But the fact is that then it changed and 9/11 changed everything. And while it took us a good 6 to 8 months as the world to kind of go through airports and wait in lines and get through the security, now it's just a no-brainer. And that became better than ever. And safety was paramount on all ships, no visitors allowed, all that kind of stuff. So everything changed then. And just like now, everything's going to change for the better even now. So right now, if we were to drop our ships in the water, we would all literally have to go off on shore together. We would all have to wear masks, and we're still going to ask our guests to have masks. We're going to have to be fully vaccinated. And that's not even just Oceania. We're going to be dictated to by airlines, by countries, by ports, all as they open up. So these are the things that Paul Travel and Oceania, we're all working towards together. I have such huge faith in the executives of the cruise lines and the whole travel industry. Unlike hotels and airports and resorts and airlines, they don't have to report to any CDC, so they're very hard to track. Cruise lines are record safety. So one of the things I want you to do is, if you're interested in hearing more about it, all you have to do is go to oceaniacruises.com, go down to the bottom of the page and go on to our health and safety website. You'll see everything, and it's changing all the time. Things are so fluid. Lastly, when I talk about best price guarantee, I told you at the beginning, if you see something you like, book it, even if it's 2 years away. And part of the reason I say that is because it's not about a hard sell. It's not a big ship that has 5,000 beds. It has 684, 1,250 beds. But the one thing you can rest assured with is that if we drop our price at all, and you've booked out here 2 years in advance, we're always going to guarantee you that you're going to get the best price from us. So you never have to worry about it, but get the stateroom you want. The other thing you're going to start to see, and when I talk about, I almost smile when I say if we drop our price, because prices with everything, you're seeing it in the news right now with airlines, prices are going up on everything. June 1st will probably, the end of June we'll have another price increase just because the demand is so huge for Oceania right now and all sorts of things. But what I want to tell you is that take a look at something you might like. Talk to Paul Travel, let them get that stateroom for you, and then you've got a whole lot of time to think about if you want to cancel or stay with it or carry on and do an extra cruise. And really, finally, and I promise to just take 2 more minutes of your time here and really just tell you about O-Life, the value of Oceania Cruises. See, as I said to you, we offer air, tax, cruise, but we always offer O-Life, and O-Life means Oceania Life on board. We are inclusive by choice. So we realize that a lot of our guests don't drink, but some of them do. So they want a liquor beverage package as they come. So you can choose that on any cruise, anywhere in the world, you have O-Life. So as part of your package, you say, okay, I want wine and beer at lunch or dinner. For $20 more a day per person, you can opt that to a full liquor package. Or you might not be a drinker. You might say, I don't want any liquor at all on the ship. I don't drink at all. but I want shore excursions. I'm a shore excursions kind of person. Well, that's an life choice that you have. You have a choice of one of these three. And so depending on the length of the cruise, whether it's 4 shore excursions or 22 shore excursions, that's something that you get included with you. And those are worth almost $150 each person for, whatever tour that you do. And each time. And if you're like me, who doesn't really know if I want the shore excursion or I want liquor, I take the equivalent in shipboard credit. So I either have a $400 shipboard credit, depending on the length of the cruise, or up to $2,200. And at the end of that cruise, that price just comes off. So I can buy a bottle of Veuve Clicquot if I want, or I can buy a beer, or I can go on a shore excursion that I want to, or I can go in the spa, or I can go in the shop and use the shipboard credit as I like. It's your world, your way. That's our slogan from the very beginning. And so we include your air, we include OLife, we include your taxes, your cruise, we have your complimentary airport transfers in and out of the airport to the ship and back. And this is where the rubber really hits the road when it comes to value, everybody. And that's if you look at the inclusive amenities. Those are where we offer internet. We don't charge in specialty restaurants. We don't charge for room service. Our shuttles in between the cities are amazing. So they're complimentary. When we come into Venice, we drop our tenders and we take you in and out of St. Mark's Square. Most cruise lines charge you 30 euros to get in and out of Venice. So those are things that are important to travelers. And we wanted to make sure that was part of our overall DNA. Fitness classes, Pilates, yogas, cardio classes, all that stuff, we don't charge you for. Bottled water, still water, soft drinks, specialty coffees, London fogs, lattes, whatever you want, espresso shots. You don't ever have to worry about that. We don't charge you for any of that. And of course, if you want to do your own laundry in laundrettes, we have a laundrette on each one of our decks, and they are amazing. They're fully stocked with a TV, all sorts of movies, refrigerations stocked full of, non-alcoholic beverages. You can order meals in there. It's a ride. It's fantastic. They're beautiful rooms. But again, if you send your laundry out, you pay for that. But if you want to do your own laundry, it's there and it's complimentary. And where Paul Travel comes in is kind of cool because these guys have been around for so long. They're one of the top 25 agents in the world for some of the biggest operators and suppliers. And so I always take my hat off to Rhonda and the whole team because truly when I look at what they have, they're part of a conglomerate called Ensemble. And through Ensemble, which is just huge buying power, is able to negotiate gratuities on a whole bunch of different sailings of ours. So we're not a cruise line that includes your gratuities, but on 80 different sailings a year, Paul Travel has prepaid gratuities on them. That's valued at around $400 a stateroom. And when we do a consumer event like this online right now, our virtual event, we always, for a full till May 21st, just over a week, we offer you a $200 shipboard credit if you book a veranda and above in addition. So you might already have the OLife and all this stuff going, but the fact is we'll give you another $200 to spend. And that gets you a long way because we include so many things on Oceania. We have past guest promotions coming up on June 1st. If you're a single traveler, we love having you on board the ship. Usually you pay double. On the new Vista, I think we're going to have single staterooms, but I don't know that for sure. I'm really hoping that's part of it. You'll see it starting coming up this next month, all news about the new Vista. But we do have about 15 different sailings that have a reduced supplement on them. So instead of looking at the percentage of 50% or 100% more, look at the price because our prices are so good to begin with. And there might be sailings there that instead of gratuities, they have a private shore excursion and cocktail party and a host with you. That's the kind of stuff that Paul Travel brings you is extra value. So talk to them about anything you have there. And final slide. I've always said this is so amazing when I talk to our guests over this whole last year. I look at this slide and I was in India when I was in my 20s and I just want to go back there. And this is what guests are saying. I want to go back to Venice. I want to go back to London. I want to go back to Newfoundland. Things that we always remember about, we loved about travel. I want you to think about where you want to go next and kind of say, okay, let's book it because the world is starting to book up. And again, just this huge surge of people saying, I've heard this expression, revenge travel. They're going back and they're spending 2 years of vacation, on their next vacation. So while we can't travel at this moment with our borders closed and restrictions, what we can do is dream about where we've been, where we want to go again, book something and get yourself just to even dream about that. Put a deposit on something you like and come and join our Oceania family. And I know that is 40, oh God, it's almost 50 minutes of talking. And I'm so sorry, Rhonda and Julie, I've really, kind of opened up my mouth here. But everybody, thank you so much for having me today. And I really hope that you'll come and join us for, the Oceania family. You're going to love it.
Thank you so much, Cathy. I know I'm ready. I want that 183 degrees. Oh, wonderful. Your enthusiasm is contagious. So thank you so much for your passion.
You're welcome.
For Oceania. We do have a few questions.
Sure.
Thank you for addressing the single supplement question Lana had. That was excellent. So you can always get in touch with us to find out which sailings have those reduced deposits.
Yeah, and also just to tell you about singles, I mean, every guest on our ship, whether you're a kid or whether you're a 95-year-old kid, you're a personal guest in our home. And so our single guests come on board the ship, and it's beautiful because it's small. So you get to know everybody, and everybody's so friendly. Our guests are really casual guests. They're really, educated, traveled people, and they're not stuffy and formal. You don't see big diamonds dripping off anybody or anything. So you come into the bars and you have a really nice time. If you're a single guest, every single night in every restaurant, we have a table of 8. So you can join other single people. We have single welcome parties, all that kind of stuff. But we also will pair you with, other guests sailing, or you can, if you just want to be on your own, you can do that too. So our maitre d's and our staff are very, kind of sensitive to everybody's individual needs.
Thank you. That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
That's really nice. Another question just about the fitness. Do you have on one of your decks, do you have a walking track that goes around?
That's a really good question. And no,
Okay.
I wish we did. Do you know, it's really interesting, for, I think, Holland America, I think there's a couple of princess ships. There's a walking deck on the top of our ships, but it's not if you're asking if there's a promenade deck, the answer is no. But when you walk on the top of our ships 4 times around, it's a mile. So it's the same as a promenade, but it's on the very top deck. And, it's fantastic. And so we have different fitness tracks and all that kind of stuff. We have personal trainers on board as well. And so we always have walking, contests and all that kind of stuff. But we do have walking, definitely running areas. It's just not a promenade deck. It's up on top of the ship.
Okay, that's nice. The views would be really nice from up there anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that's all the questions. Rhonda, did you have anything to add or any questions?
It's because I talk too much.
No, it was fabulous.
Cathy.
You covered everything.
Yeah. You were very informative, Cathy. So, it was fantastic. And just hearing you speak and like Julie mentioned, your passion, enthusiasm. I've known Cathy for many years, and that has never changed. And it was such a beautiful presentation. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and zest for the cruising world. It is fantastic. Yeah. And it makes me want to get on a sailing too. I'm like, okay, I'm ready too.
And it's something that you can really feel safe with. And, as I said, you've got all this trust in the executives of the industry, and it's not about greed. It's about safety first for not only their ships, but for their staff as well. We have to make sure all our staff are perfectly happy and perfectly safe before we put any guests on, and we want to make sure our guests are safe. And so, behind each door, we're working with ports and shore excursion companies and everything to make sure that it's perfect. And so you're starting to see other cruise lines sail right now, right at this moment. There's ships in the water, and their ships have been in the water this year. It's pretty amazing. So, and they're having great success. So it's all coming back.
That's nice. And it's nice to feel that, sense of security if you're thinking about traveling, to know that you've got all of these protocols in place, and what an amazing job that you have spent, really focusing on it. So it just gives you that peace of mind.
Yeah, it is peace of mind. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Cathy. I know I myself am going to be dreaming about those itineraries tonight. So
well, take a look at oceaniacruises.com. We don't have printed brochures, but you can look online at all the itineraries. And by the way, don't try and book direct with Oceania. You know, when I look at the travel agents, when I go back to last March, if I can just take this 1 second, I remember people phoning, you know, and on airlines waiting for 6 and 8 hours and 3 days to even get home. One phone call to their travel agent made them get home. I know you guys had this situation. And, you know, one of the things that's going to be very apparent over this next few months as we start to really, you know, kind of make sure people are getting what they need is you are going to play the most paramount kind of position in the travel business, because more and more people are going to want to use a travel agency. When you come and phone directly to Oceania and you think you're going to get a better deal, you're not going to get the value added stuff that Paul Travel has. That's for sure. I mean, you're going to get a very nice experience, but you're not going to get the same experience because we partner with our travel partners like Paul Travel. And so they're really incredible where they are able to offer you pre and post excursions and different excursions and all the things included, including your gratuities and your shore excursions. So I think those are the things you always want to look at. So please come and look at our website, but don't book directly with us. You know, come to Paul Travel. They know what they're doing.
Thank you so much, Cathy. That's so sweet of you. Big hugs to you. Thank you so much. Stay safe, healthy, everybody. And we'll look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Thanks so much for having me,
Cathy.
guys.
Take
Okay.
care.
Take
Bye,
care.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.